Let me paint you a picture. Australia, once known as one of the safest and freest countries in the world. A land of spirit and ceremony. A land of opportunity where the hopeful came for a new start so their children could be free and prosperous. Where the battler had a chance and poor men made good. A land where you were free to explore your surroundings. A land with room to spread one's wings. A land of brotherhood, celebration, and connection. A land where you came to visit and didn't want to leave. A land of privacy rights, medical rights, freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom to protest, freedom to worship, thanks to their sacrifice. But something happened.
Today is the first full day of the New World Order.
We've got to accept that this is the New World Order.
The New World Order?
And the Australia we once knew is no more.
Lockdown 6 was announced on August 5.
It is no longer the land of the young and free. It is now a land of division, blackmail, coercion, discrimination, and medical apartheid.
Get off of me!
A land where movement, speech, religion, and opinion are no longer free. Protesting is illegal. Police must enforce corrupt policies to keep their jobs.
As I won't be a police officer after the end of this interview.
Police shoot protesters in the back while they are running away.
Australia!
Doctors and nurses cannot speak. They will lose their license.
I can't really talk about that.
People have lost their jobs because they don't want the injection. Children are missing school and attempting suicide at a high rate. We need to show our papers to go shopping.
If you want freedom, get the jab.
We can't travel across state borders unless we apply for permission to. Members of Parliament are censored and defamed.
100% of those studies.
It's a conspiracy theory.
Pregnant women are arrested for a social media post.
Search warrant.
Search warrant for what?
Activists who fight for democracy are imprisoned.
At the moment you're under arrest for incitement.
Our human rights are gone. Our human rights are gone.
It's time that we take off the COVID blinkers and look at what's happened to our once great and free country.
Australia can no longer fight for itself. We have been silenced, assaulted, blackmailed, and psychologically damaged. We tried to fight this battle alone. The government has instilled so much fear that we have lost our vigour to fight. We are a broken nation, and although we will never give up, we need your help to continue our fight. We need help from our international friends. We are seeking your support to apply political and economic pressure on our leaders to change the destructive path that we are on. That is why we are organising a worldwide protest, with Australia excluded, in support of our plight for freedom. This is an official SOS from my beautiful country. We plead with you to hear our cries for help.
It's sad, but it's true. And it's not only happening in Australia, it's happening in the United States and around the world. Hi, I'm Ron Lutters, and tonight we've got a very special program, and we're going to call it something that these gentlemen that are with me have come up with, and I really love this. It's called the Global Alliance for Medical Choice, and it's true. And we've seen this happen around the world. We've got with us tonight, of course, we got Robert's over here. I guess our names are messed up here, except for mine. Robert is actually Mark over here. And then this is Robert. And then, of course, we have Mr. Miller, who is always on our show because he is works with the Sheriff's Association in America, and his name is above my head. So I don't know how that happened, but at any rate, welcome to the show. Those of you that are down at the Arizona State Capitol, if you are watching this, thank you for being there, and especially Senator Wendy Rogers for her support in this effort. The gentlemen here are with Boeing Company, and we titled this show specifically because we believe in medical freedom. You should not have to take the jab, as they say. And they work for Boeing Corporation, which is a great American corporation, has saved the United States and saved the world many times over. But now, for some reason, they have decided that what they consider to be a mandate from the President of the United States, which is not, that they have to go along with this. So I call this no jab, no job. Gentlemen, thank you for putting this together. You are great Americans, and Mark, you've been a yeoman in this particular effort, as has some of the people in our audience tonight as well. Tell us what is going on here, and of course, we would like to welcome Monica in. I think she's online. Are you there, Monica? We must have lost her. She's live in Australia, but we must have dropped her off here. It's a long distance. It's about 18 or 19 hours difference. So there she is. Can you hear us? Can't hear. She's pointing to our ear. And at any rate, this is a lovely lady who put this together, and she's asking that the world come together against the jab. And I don't know, Mr. O'Connor, if there's any way we can get that sound back to her. Okay. At any rate, I hope you can see us. Can you see us? Wave if you can see us. Okay, she can't see us. At any rate, we were afraid we'd have some of this problem. Esther, is there some way you can reconnect this? Esther's working on it right now. We've got it. We understand. Okay, so tell us how this came about. Mark, you've been really instrumental in this, as has Robert and Esther, and you've been on the show many times. But let's fill the audience. Those at the Capitol, I think, know what's going on, but those that have just tuned in may not.
Yes, Boeing mandated the vaccine. Either you get it or you're fired. They came back and they said you can have religious or medical exemptions, although those are getting approved. We don't know how reliable those are going to be, especially come January 4th, because they moved the date. It was December 8th. From my understanding is that MD helicopter across the street from us, they took anybody that didn't want to take the jab and they terminated them. And anybody that got a medical exemption, they put them on a 90-day leave. I'm assuming that's what they're going to end up doing at Boeing. But I can just make an assumption on that one.
Well, as many of you know out there, we've had these gentlemen on before, but one of the things that the President of the United States had made a comment, and tell me if we need this. Okay, we didn't kill this. We got a dog or something barking there. At any rate, the President of the United States made a statement. First of all, he and all of the members of the cabinet says, well, it's un-American to require people to get the jab. Next, then, he made a statement that he wants everybody to get the jab, which is certainly not a law. It was not an executive order, and it was certainly not anything that was legal, because laws in this country are not made by the President, as you know. They're made by the Congress. That hasn't happened.
Well, and here's what I've always told people. The United States is set up, if the president affects your daily life, it is not working. Yes. We do not have a system. Our system, the local government, has the most impact on your life. No matter what mean tweets came out, no impact actually showed up at your life day to day.
That's correct.
This impact is actually a president issuing an edict that's having an impact on citizens' daily lives.
That's very true. Randy, I want to talk to you because you are the quasi-expert on the United States Constitution. Where is the violation of the Constitution on the part of the government itself?
Separation of powers. They violated that. There's Jefferson specifically emphasized the fact that we have three branches of government, each distinct in their operations and responsibilities. Article 1, as you said, defines the role of Congress is to make law. And if you look at Article 2, Section 2 for the President, there's nothing in there that grants him executive powers over the people or the states. So the violation is just that in the Constitution itself, he has no authority. There's no executive power over the people by the president or over the states. So he overstepped his boundary. Where we fail is we follow his edicts.
Not at this table.
Well, that's 4 of us, yeah, but a large percentage of our society still walks around with the face mask on. They still say they've drank the COVID Kool-Aid because the government has taken over the media system and influenced the society and shut down any opposition to with truth and fact on the other side.
Well, one of the really interesting things here, and I have something here that I wanted to read and this has just happened in the last few days, and it goes, this is, I believe, in Connecticut, yes it is, and this is in a elderly care home, and it says 8 people are dead, and just shy of 100 here became infected with COVID-19 after the outbreak the Connecticut nursing home. Of the 89 total infections, 87 people had been fully vaccinated. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't get the jab if I knew that I was going to get sick from it. And that's what these gentlemen and the ladies of Boeing are saying. I'll make up my own mind. And you have been met with, well, tell us how you feel you've been met with in your corporation.
Well, we're being dictated to. This is not a choice by any stretch of the imagination, and they're creating a hostile environment battle that I do not think they're going to be able to mend. They are putting vaccinated, unvaccinated people against one another in such a hostile way that even when this does end, which I hope it does, it's not going to go away.
Well, that's one of the sad things originally, Robert. You and Esther came on the show about 3 weeks ago, and I guess the deadline was December 8th. What a wonderful Christmas present. Merry Christmas, you just lost your job because you won't take a shot that possibly could make you ill or even deceased.
So there's a little story I'd like to tell about how the company's working. So one of the things we want to mention is that our managers are actually trying to communicate with us, but this is coming down from the top. We have one employee that didn't get the shot. He was near someone who had the shot who brought COVID into work.
Oh boy! Because
he was next to an employee who had COVID, who had the shot, he was sent home with unpaid leave. But the Boeing employee that had COVID got to stay at work because he had the shot,
even though he was ill.
Yes. So
the carrier.
This is kind of the weird things going on to justify the position. Is Monica on the line?
I heard she was. Monica, are you there? I can just barely hear you. Monica?
Did you turn the phone up?
I know I heard her, but she wasn't potted up maybe on the...
I got a firewall right now.
Oh, okay. So at any rate, Monica, if you can hear us, we're aware that you're there. I'm not sure how we're going to patch this through, but we'll try and make reference to your scenario there, which is absolutely horrible.
It is.
But the scenario then, a lot of people across the United States has not only sympathized with you folks, but have sympathized with their own case because their corporations were doing the same thing. And this has gotten to a point where, and I was really surprised at this, where the president supposedly had issued an executive order. And we had talked a little bit about that on this show. If you see a lot going on here, there is on this show. And Randy, what it is an executive order is just that. Is it an order for the people in the executive branch and is not an order for the people of the United States?
No, it's not. There's nothing in the Constitution even addresses executive order. It's a policy procedure that he can use to tell staff below him that if he signed into law a new procedure, or if there's some hiccup going on in one of the administrative branches that he's overseeing, he would issue an administrative policy, say, hey, this is how we're going to fix this. This is how you're going to implement your law. It is not administrative policy that he dictates to the staff or to the agencies under him to implement policy over the people, because it's not law. There's no such thing as a fourth branch of government, and that would be the administrative branch.
Exactly. Now, the one thing that I've, if it looks like we're having technical difficulties, we are.
Trying to get Monica.
Monica, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
All right.
Very good.
Bless your heart. We've been discussing the issue here in the United States because we're not too far behind Australia. But I will mention this. When I saw the photographs that the film that you were showing, and I love history, it reminded me of Nazi Germany, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
As to what was going on. And I've seen this before. There was a gentleman that went out, I guess, to take a smoke, and he walked more than so many paces past his house, and the police just jumped on him, knocked him down, handcuffed him. And I'm thinking, whoa, they don't even treat murderers that bad. So tell us a little bit about your plight, and we're certainly praying for your safety there.
Oh, thank you. You know, our safety is actually in jeopardy as of today. There's a really big vote going through Parliament right now as we're speaking. It's called the Permanent Pandemic Legislation. If this legislation goes through, I could be imprisoned for 2 years with no questions. The police are not punished if they make any mistakes, and I can be force tested, force vaccinated for 2 years with no questions, no appeal, no bail, no nothing, just because of my opinions. So if I'm called a public health risk, which, you know, they've already tried to silence me. I was in prison for 22 days already because they wanted me to shut down my organisation. So look, what's going on right now is really full on in Victoria, Australia. But on the Nazi Germany comment, I'd like to say that I've met a lot of people on the streets who have lived through Nazi Germany or other countries like Poland and things like that, and they say that this is actually worse. They say this is much worse because of the psychological element. The unvaccinated are being called disease spreaders, which is exactly what they were called back then. And also any protest. There was a protest in Melbourne that was the biggest ever in Melbourne history, 130,000 people, and they've been called obviously neo-Nazi terrorists. So they're kind of painting the narrative to start calling us terrorists, which would then obviously give them a lot more leeway criminally to get rid of people like me and like the 130,000. So they're also building quarantine facilities, even though double vaccinated people from international places don't have to quarantine. So who are they building them for? I don't really know. So it's as bad as it looks, and maybe even worse.
Wow. You know, they're doing the same thing here, calling us terrorists. This is a pattern. They're calling and labeling specific groups terrorists that contradict their ideology as a way to suppress us. And I would ask Monica, does she not have any form of constitution in Australia? And if they do, they clearly just must be dismissing it and doing their own thing. And that's a concern that I have here.
Yeah, Monica, that is an interesting question. Here we have some really wonderful documents that those of us that have served in the military have sworn to protect, and those that may not have be sworn in the military certainly believe this. I would think most Americans believe in our founding documents. We have the right to carry guns, and that's one thing I was really sad back several years ago that was shocked actually that the people of Australia so willingly turned in their weapons when they were told to turn in their weapons. Here we have a constitution that provides that. What documents do you have, the founding documents of your country, that protect you against the tyranny of government?
Well, we have something called a constitution, but it doesn't work because the state of emergency overrides the constitution, and we also do not have a Bill of Rights. And of course, giving up our guns was a huge mistake in my opinion. So we had a court case recently, and the judge literally said, it was about mandatory vaccinations, and he said, well, we don't have a Bill of Rights in this country, so yeah, so that's it. we actually don't have a working constitution.
But you do have what they call the Nuremberg Code. And the Nuremberg Code specifically stated that as human beings, we have the innate right to our body. We decide as individuals. Humanity decides as an individual what we allow to do to our bodies, and we have a right for refusal, informed consent. And they're not doing that, so they're violating the natural human rights of society.
And that's international law.
It is. Yes. It's an accepted policy that we've all accepted and agreed to. Even the United Nations has their own human rights policy that they have out for people, and this is being violated. But what we're seeing is not any attempt to honor any humanity or any human rights of the people.
And
anywhere.
Randy, that came about because Hitler used the Jewish people as medical mice. That's what I call them, to try all types of experiments on them, and some of them, when you study that, there were absolutely horrible things that went on. I wouldn't even want to talk about them; they're so horrible. But out of that, once the victors of the war, and I might add that Australia was one of the victors, they had that Nuremberg trial, and that was one of the outcomes, is that no individual has to take untested, untried drugs.
So I'm going to make a quick little point about our Bill of Rights. We do know that during the COVID movement in the United States, that every one of our Bill of Rights were violated during the emergency, right?
Yes.
Our first
close your businesses.
Our very first right is religion,
freedom of speech, religion,
freedom of speech, gathering,
right to assemble,
right to assemble. All of those were suspended.
And the big one, and that is to petition against grievances against the people.
All of those were suspended. So even though Monica said that they don't have it in Australia, we do, and those were all violated by our government.
They were. But what we have to understand is, if Australia can be treated the way they are, we must support their effort as we are doing today, and stand for them as one under humanity, because what can happen there can easily happen here as well, because our Constitution's being shredded. What we have to recognize as a state, our authority is our state constitution, and they violated numerous sections in our own state constitution and our Declaration of Rights, which is Article 2. And if we need to understand as well that the federal government has no authority over our Bill of Rights, because the preamble to the Bill of Rights specifically states that at the time of their constitutional conventions, a number of states, in order to prevent abuse of power and misconstruction, requested additional declaratory and restrictive clauses. If we don't understand what that is saying, then we're in trouble. But what it is saying is that the Congress has no authority. These are additional declaratory and restrictive clauses, and there's no authority granted to them which would give them authority to make laws governing it. So the 1934 Federal Firearms Act, it's unconstitutional. The 1968 Safe Streets Act, it's unconstitutional. Adding taxes, they want to tax every bullet you spend, it's unconstitutional.
So I got a question. So Monica, in Australia, when did they come out and actually take the guns away?
I believe it was 6 or 7 years ago.
So it's only been 6 or 7 years for the deterioration of the country. That's amazing.
Exactly.
Interestingly,
even then.
Go ahead.
Even then, we didn't obviously have the high gun ownership like America anyway. But I will just, talking about guns, just yesterday, a gentleman got a visit from the police in South Australia, and it was because he had sent his members of Parliament an email. And in that email, he had referenced the Nuremberg Code, Nuremberg trials, which you mentioned earlier. And the police said, these emails are of suspect, and the gentleman said, well, you know what the Nuremberg trials are, right? And anyway, and then he just said, we'd also like to have a look at your gun license and your guns. right? So they're actually using, it's my people I know very close have had a COVID fine, so like a fine for being outside your 5-kilometer radius or not wearing a mask, and then they get a follow-up email, a follow-up letter saying that their gun license is in jeopardy because of the COVID fine. So then not only did they get rid of them 7 years ago on a mass scale, but they're now trying to get rid of the people who have still managed to legally hold on to them. So yeah, it's pretty full on.
Wow. I wanted to make a comment, Randy. I really respect your knowledge of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and so forth, but I want to remind our audience, those especially down at the Arizona State Capitol, that if you check the first 3 words of our Constitution, it tells you who has the power in this country. It says, we the people. It doesn't say, we the government. They serve us. We do not serve them. And they seem to have forgotten that.
So, Monica, I hear that there are a lot of people at the actual Parliament on the steps day and night. Is that true?
That is absolutely true. It is an Australia first ever 24-hour protest. It started on Sunday night, which would have been your Saturday. So it's on the 4th day right now. And so it kind of goes in peaks and waves. So people come and go, but there is people bring pianos, guitars, dogs, food, barbecues. It's exactly what you would expect from a what they call a neo-Nazi group. It's absolutely beautiful. The community's coming together, and very peaceful, and it's really beautiful, and it's made a huge impact on what's going on inside Parliament right now. So there's some history-making stuff.
How many people are showing up?
At night. So people are sleeping overnight too, and you might have a handful, maybe 70 or 80 sleeping overnight. But then during the day, it goes up to about 300 or 400, and then at night time, it goes over 2,000 easily. So it's like actually a party. And just remember, for your audience, we have a pretty small population here, and we have been locked up for the longest in any place in the world. So actually, this Parliament protest is the most fun Victorians have had in 2 years. So people are going and they're having a dance party and they're sharing food and drink, and it's just beautiful.
I have a question though. If in fact you're not vaxxed, and I don't even like to say vaxxed, I say jabbed, because I'm not sure these are legitimate vaccines in the true sense of the word. How are they going there? Are these people that have had the jab but don't want people to have the jab? How are they staying safe without being arrested?
Well, look, our almighty dictator, Daniel Andrews, has given us some freedoms at the moment because we hit 90% first dose, and I think we're at 87 second dose, according to their numbers, which I don't believe, by the way. But anyway, so there is a 30-person outdoor gathering limit now. So there's still a limit, and of course there's more than that at the protests, but the police aren't using their heavy hand at the moment. So I feel like it's a bit of a false sense of security, because if this bill was to go through today, then Daniel Andrews actually could backdate the bill and arrest anyone that is at the protest right now. So I think it's a trap if the bill goes through.
This is absolutely amazing, and it's one of the things Randy said, I think, that is so imperative here. If you notice, your country's name starts with an A, and our nickname, of course, we're USA, but our nickname is A, America. So Austria and America, as far as I'm concerned, have always been some of the best of friends, best of allies, fought side by side against tyranny in the world, and now our very countries are the terrorists, in my opinion. How can they go about this with politicians supporting these concepts? I know in our country, and it may very well be in yours, is the Republicans, which are more conservative, are generally opposed to all of these things. I know at the state capitol today, one of the speakers, I didn't hear her, was a very good friend of mine, very conservative, and that was Senator Wendy Rogers. Can you gentlemen talk to that? Has she spoken while you were still there?
No, she hasn't spoken yet.
Oh, okay. And she is another one. She was in the United States Air Force. She was a colonel. She was the first woman pilot in air transport. Very, very conservative and fighting for. She's down there really supporting the group. This Boeing group is a phenomenal group of people.
This is a complete airline collaboration. So it's not just us. Actually, downtown, that was put together by the airlines, and they graciously allowed us to join in with them.
Excellent.
But, getting this, at least in the United States, we have our rights and they haven't taken them yet. And what Mark and Robert are doing is what Australia would love to be able to do. And what they're doing is they're organizing and they're standing against the
tyranny of government.
They're standing against the tyranny of their employer. The government's not doing it. The employer is doing it.
That's correct.
And that is the problem that we have to understand, is that government is dangling the carrot unconstitutionally because they don't have authority to do any dictation to a company based on contract. These are prior contracts that have been in existence that he's violating the terms of those contracts at this time by mandating it. Even if they did, they can't mandate because we have rights, Monica, as you do, to decide what goes into our body and what doesn't. Health in our Constitution is not one of the powers that we gave government over us, and that's what the difference is. And what these guys are doing is fighting, and I wish you guys could fight, because we can go after these corporations and even our government criminally, and that's what we're doing.
Monica, how many people do you have there that are actually supporting your movement, and how many people are actually reaching out to their parliament and saying, hey, do the right thing?
Members of Parliament have said that they've been getting tens of thousands of emails. So we have quite easy tools to use for people to email all the members of Parliament at once. Obviously, there's been some threats as well in there, and which we would never condone, of course. But our movement, the freedom movement, has never gone down. It's always going up and up and up every single day, because the worse the tyranny gets, even the vaccinated don't like the segregation. I can't go to the gym, I can't go to a cafe, I can't do a lot of things that other people can. Even children can't play in sports if their parents aren't vaccinated. They can't go to graduation. They can't go to camps, school camps. So there's so much pressure everywhere. And I know what you say about the Constitution. You say that it's against our human rights, it's our inalienable rights to choose what goes into our body. Well, that's easy and well to say. But when your employer says, yeah, you've got a choice, you either take the vaccination or you quit. That's the choices that people are getting given. And then companies are just taking it upon themselves to create their own policies, even though it goes against all contractual law. And we know that, but we've tried to do big class actions, and the judges rule against freedom. So it's like, we know the law, we understand it, but it's just not being, they just don't care.
Well,
they're
Monica,
literally breaking the law every single day.
There's one thing that really bothers me, and your system is very similar to ours, and that is we have a private sector and we have a public sector. And any time a private sector is called upon by the public sector to enforce policy, there's a name for that, and it's called fascism. And I hate to see it that your country has always been a bastion, I believe, of freedom and liberty until now, and so has America, gentlemen. And I'm sorry to see what's going on here, but there are the gentlemen at this table and the people that are here in our audience, I know, are tired of this stuff. We're not used to it, and we're not going to put up with it. And we're all on the right track. We've been able to push some of these mandates back from December 8th to January 4th, Robert?
Correct.
That's correct.
And now OSHA has gotten into the thing, which is our occupational safety and health or something to that effect. I'm not sure what all OSHA stands for, but they say this is, they're supposed to keep people from slipping on wet floors in kitchens. But now they're saying, well, gee, we've got to protect people from each other, from germs and viruses, which I don't think was within their purview. They had started to mandate this, but thank God the 4th District Court put up. The 5th Court? The 5th U.S. District Court had slowed this down, and now it's in limbo. Now, don't get too excited, because I think this is just setting the stage for a congressional move myself. And I'm hoping, in this country, the Republicans and the Democrats actually hold a very slim margin, but it's enough to pass some stupid laws, and which they have done recently, pass stupid laws, and this is another one that I'm afraid they might want to do that. Now it's a different ballgame if it becomes a law.
Well, it goes deeper than that, because with corporations, they're actually trying to monopolize on all this. What they're doing is they're saying, okay, you don't get the jab. What we're going to do is we're not going to fire you. We're going to send you home with no pay. So now the unemployment.
No unemployment.
Great for, what do you call them? In name only?
Pino.
A Pino, yeah.
President in name only. That would be, who is that? Brandon?
Yeah. So with what he's doing with the jobs reports is all these companies that he's got coerced into, hey, we're going to go ahead and we're going to say, okay, we're not going to fire you. We're going to put you out on a leave with no pay. Therefore, you can't file unemployment or anything like that. So they're going to choke you out that way.
And you can't eat.
Is that happening in Australia as well, Monica?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, left, right, and centre. It's actually quite difficult to get a dismissal letter, and it's really hard to get a risk assessment on paper as well. So people have been asking their jobs to, do some dispute resolution with Fair Work Commission, which is our kind of like overarching dispute resolution between employees and employers. And no one's getting any help. It's interesting because in grocery stores, if they have a new set of knives that the butchers use, for example, the grocery store will go through all these different protocols of risk assessment and things like that. But with the jab, it's just like, yep, just take this and don't ask any questions. And employees can go to the shop to shop, but they can't go to work. So it's obviously ridiculous. And can I just say, on the note of businesses, you mentioned before about how it's fascism because the private sector is having to enforce these corrupt policies. Well, in Victoria, if this bill passes today, businesses will get fined $200,000 if you break COVID restrictions. So if you want to put businesses in line, that's one way to do it. And and individuals like myself can get a $90,000 fine for getting caught not wearing a mask outside in an open field paddock alone. So it's they're using, of course that's Australian dollars, so that would be about 50,000 American. It's still a lot of money.
That's still a lot of
enough
money. Yes.
It's enough to stop people from not complying, as you can imagine. So that's why businesses and sporting venues are actually going the extra mile to make it look like they're doing the right thing by the government. And I have been kicked out of a cafe before, and I didn't make a scene or anything, but because I didn't have a vax pass. But I went and spoke to the owner afterwards. I walked into the restaurant afterwards. Stupid, right? Anyway, and he felt so bad. He hated telling me I couldn't be there. Like, it's just such a terrible situation the government's putting people in.
So speaking of that story, Monica, if you don't mind, would you tell us how you got arrested? And that story behind
how
that.
I got what? Arrested. Oh, yeah. Well, they found a way to criminalize anyone who incites people to break COVID restrictions. So apparently through my work, I was encouraging people to break the COVID restrictions, which is only a finable offence. So if you encourage your friend to park in a no parking zone, that would be incitement. But really it's meant for murders and things like that, actual crimes. Anyway, so I was arrested for incitement, inciting others to break the directions.
And what did you incite them to do?
Yeah. They allegedly organising protests, and I wrote a comment, I allegedly wrote a comment saying that people should wear masks to get to the protest, to be undercover from the police, and then take them off in the crowd. So that was a count of incitement.
Oh,
yeah.
boy, you're bad.
Yeah.
You're bad.
I'm such a criminal. And the bail conditions were so onerous. I had my own curfew from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. until the trial was finished, which could be in 2 years, okay? And on top of that, they wanted me to close down my entire business, my political party. Yes, I was the vice president of a political party, and they wanted me to stop speaking against the COVID restrictions. They wanted to actually, they wanted me to stop, like, giving my opinion. So, and that was signed off by a magistrate. Okay, so this wasn't just proposed, and then the original proposed ones, they even wanted to shut down my bank accounts. Now, I had 7 staff at the time. I now have 12, so it's helped my profile actually. But they all would have lost their job. I would have had to delete everything on my website, and I just would have been taken off the face of this fight. So I said no to the bail condition. So I went to prison for 22 days in solitary confinement, so no sunshine, no exercise time, no breeze, literally a 3x3 room. And to be honest, I was comfortable enough. Like, it was fine. I was warm and safe, you know, but I refused to take a PCR test. So I had to be in there for the entire time, which could be considered quite abusive. So we'll see about
punishment.
That. We'll see about that later. Yeah, but so I didn't go to prison.
Cruel and unusual.
Oh, there'll be something. So I didn't go to prison for the alleged offences. I went to prison because I refused bail. Then we appealed the bail conditions, and they took all of those onerous ones out. So now I'm still on bail, but I just have to follow the COVID restrictions myself, and not incite others to break them, which leaves me, I can still do lots of work. So I'm back.
Monica, I want to ask you a question. We've talked about this yesterday, so I know the answer. Now, the United States has about 330 million population. I'm not sure what Australia is. It's not anywhere close to that. Could you tell me what the population is?
26 million.
26 million people. Okay, tell me how many people have contracted or died from COVID in your country?
1,300.
1,300 have died?
But, with COVID.
With COVID, okay. 1,300, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
1,300, and for that they're taking their citizens' rights away from them. I mean, in Arizona, we have 7 million people, and I don't know what our death rate has been, but it's been much higher than that. And
if you can believe the numbers, which we have no belief in.
Well, there's one thing, and it's interesting. Monica and I mentioned this yesterday on the phone. Did they die with COVID, or they die of COVID? And there's a big difference.
Well, actually, we had a presentation this past Saturday. I wasn't there, with a group of medical professionals in Scottsdale, and a lab tech had reported that every test they do is coming back positive for COVID, regardless of what they test for. And so we cannot trust that. She sees the blood, she sees the PCR test strips, and we have 2 flus going around in Arizona, 2 major flus. One of them's pretty serious. Nobody's dying from the flu. Nobody's been diagnosed with the flu.
I think last year we had maybe 1,600 in the whole, and it's usually about between 55 and 85,000 a year, and we had 1,600, which means either they've cured the flu, or people that have died of COVID, they're claiming that it was actually COVID rather than the flu.
I'd like to ask Monica a question about how many law enforcement officers are actually staying on the force or not following through with these ridiculous violations of human rights, and how many people are all the judges doing the same thing, or is there just a few that you know of?
It's really hard to it's really hard to know exactly the amount of pushback, but I can say that 130,000 people at a protest, based on expert advice, 10 times that at home probably agree with them. So that's, potentially, 1.3 million, which is maybe 1/6 of Victoria. I like those numbers. I think that's pretty reasonable. Now, with this new pandemic bill, I've always said it's going to be the undoing of Daniel Andrews, who is our Premier, because he's put his dictatorship dreams on paper. We're no longer conspiracy theorists. It's right there in black and white for everyone to see, and it affects everyone, left, right, religious, non-religious, vax, unvaxxed. No one likes this bill. 60 QCs, I think you call it the same thing in America, 60 QCs have signed an open letter talking about their disgust with this bill. There's also the Victorian 60 QCs, which is higher than a barrister. Like you've got lawyer, barrister, QC. That's just under a judge in terms of lawyer status. So they're really high up lawyers, basically. And 60 of them have signed an open letter saying they don't agree with the bill at all. And the Victorian Bar Association, which is the Lawyers Association, has also written articles. So there's been so much negativity about these things happening at the moment, but they're just pushing through anyway. But it's great to see the pushback. And I think it's growing every day.
How about your police?
Law enforcement? Sorry if I didn't hear that question because it was hard to hear you at the start of the question. The police, well, unfortunately, probably 5% of them are enjoying the power that they have, and I think those 5% are sent to the worst jobs. The other 95% try to avoid COVID enforcement as much as possible. I mean, at some stage, kids' playgrounds were closed at one stage for about 3 weeks during lockdown, and I think it would take a pretty nasty policeman to actually go to a playground and kick a 5-year-old off a playground during lockdown because they've got nothing else to do. So I would say 95% of police hate this, but they've still taken the experimental medical procedure because they had to keep their job. Only about 300 out of 20,000 police in Victoria have held the line and not taken it. So I don't have a definitive answer for you, but I have faith in the police force to pull through at some point soon, I hope.
The same ones that locked you up? Sorry, I'm just...
Look, I have a lot.
The same ones we saw in the SOS video?
Yeah. Look,
that didn't look real good.
I try to stay positive, and I'm empathetic towards people's situation. I think a lot of them are going to have a really difficult mental process to get through the harm that they've caused. I know that they know they're doing the wrong thing, so that's going to be on them to deal with, you know. And hopefully one day we can have somewhat of a Nuremberg trial here, and
that's what I was
just
going to suggest, that when this is over, it's like the people that were at Auschwitz and some of those prison camps. You know, they thought they were big, powerful people, and then once this was found out, the horrors that they had created, I'm not sure a lot of them made it past the next week before people were killing them.
So with the high population of vaccination that you have in Australia, how many side effects are you guys seeing?
Oh my gosh, you can't keep up. Even the mainstream media are having to report on it now.
Wow.
Because it's just so big. So the last report I saw was over 60 teenagers have pericarditis or myocarditis, and that's just the ones that are reporting it, right? But the crazy thing is that everyone I've spoken to knows at least one person who has had a severe adverse reaction, and I don't know anyone who's had a bad COVID experience. So it's really scary, but not the good thing, but like it's so obvious now that some celebrities are speaking out. Members of Parliament are actually sharing stories in Parliament. One member of Parliament actually interrupted a news anchor live and just forced his stories out on mainstream, and it was quite a glorious moment. And they tried to stop him, and then they were just like, oh, and he just kept going. So he's now a hero. So yeah, I have a video coming to me from 5 doctors who want to hide their face on a USB stick, coming to me to my post office box. So what I mean is, like, they're coming and coming and coming. They're still scared. Just on the doctor note, I really want to tell you guys this, because I think you'll be really shocked by this, is that last week we have authorised officers who are basically public servants who are hired to enforce COVID restrictions. So they shut down businesses, etc. And they get paid really good money, like $2,000 a week, so $1,200 US a week, which is very good money. That 7 of them went into a doctor's surgery with no search warrant because they're not police, and they took his patient files.
No.
Yes,
Wow.
that is correct. Yep, I'm not even joking.
Don't you have laws to protect that? We have a law here called HIPAA laws. And don't you have something like that? The medical records are totally between you and your doctor.
It's gone. Like, our law is gone. Like, there's no other way for me to explain it to you. The law doesn't matter anymore here. It just doesn't.
Ours doesn't either.
It was live streamed. It's all over mainstream media. It was live streamed. Like, everyone knows it happened. And he even tried to get them back on Tuesday in a court case, and he lost his court case.
So
he couldn't get his files back.
You need to apply for permission to go from state to state. Is that correct?
That's correct. I haven't left the state for 2 years, and I can't.
Do you have any family outside of the state?
I soon will, because most of my family are leaving because of this new bill. People want to get out of Victoria.
Now, this is not
soon I
general.
will.
This is not general throughout Australia. Just certain states.
During this time, the states have acted like their own countries, which is part of the problem, especially Victoria and Western Australia and Queensland the most. So you can't cross borders without filling out paperwork, and I refuse to fill out any of this stupid paperwork. You know, I don't want my name on anything. So I would have to basically swim across the river to get across the state border, and obviously separating states is unconstitutional, and it's not supposed to happen, but it's been happening for 2 years now.
Well, if you need to get out of there and you're a good swimmer, you're more than welcome to come to the United States. We're still fighting.
That's why Australia is a great test. It's such a great testing ground because we're so isolated here, aren't we?
Yes, but we're, it's gentlemen like this and ladies that are here in the audience, they're doing a really fantastic job. You notice the beards. What was it, November what?
It's No Shave November.
I didn't get the word, neither did Randy, but at any rate, this is amazing. These people have been holding tight. They're there every day outside of the gates of Boeing. It's really interesting. I did want to pass this on. You're aware that they are working with the Boeing Aircraft Company, and this is our military operation actually in Mesa, Arizona, which is really disappointing because Boeing has been at the heart of defending America over the years and then won't stand up for American individual rights, which they should. But one of the things here that I feel that is so important is the fact that these people have given up so much. They're taking leave during a holiday season. They're risking the fact, and they're young people and they have children. We're talking about Christmas. They have children and they're not to get the jab, and they're saying, okay, our kids may not have a nice Christmas because I might be on the unemployment line. But then, of course, on the other side, they might not have a father either if you get sick from this and die.
Our thought, Monica, is if you don't stand up now, it's going to get too late.
When will you stand up?
So can you tell us about being too late?
Yeah, for sure. My theory is if you're going to have a line in the sand somewhere, you may as well make it now, because with all the boosters and the boosters and the boosters, you've just got to do it now. I'm with you guys. I would rather die than live like they want me to, actually. That's not living to me either. So I think people need to figure out where their conviction is and how far they're willing to go. But I also don't know what it's like to be told you can't have anything if you don't get this injection. I'm not in that position, so I can't really say I understand. But sorry, the question, too late. Okay, so I'm part of the problem as to why we're in this position. And when I say that, I mean that I was never involved in politics. I didn't take it seriously. I just voted whoever my dad voted for. And that represents a lot of people in Australia. So we created this by being complacent and enjoying life. We had a really good life here, so it's absolutely too late in many respects. We're absolutely chasing them, constantly trying to come up with ideas. We're chasing them. It's terrible. It's so terrible. But in saying that, I have a lot of hope for Australia, because we're getting bigger and bigger every day. The movement, the community's coming together, the businesses who are saying no. So I do have hope, but I would say as you're looking at it right now, we definitely were too late. And I would say to America that with you guys having guns and being so patriotic, we are not taught to be patriotic in our high schools and things like that. It's almost racist to be patriotic. So you guys have actually what it takes. Australians are jealous of Americans, and if you've got the opportunity to stop this mandated vaccine, you've just got to put all of your eggs in at once, because it is terrible to watch your 18-year-old niece take a vaccine so she can go to pubs. You just can't, you just don't know how terrible that is. So please do what you can while you still can.
Is Sydney, Australia doing this in the same situation you're in Victoria?
Pardon me?
Is Sydney in the same situation you're in Victoria? with the lockdown?
No, every state
is different.
Every state is different.
This is again the problem. But with the lockdowns in Sydney, yes, there are some lockdowns. There's lockdowns in every state, more or less. But they're all at different levels, and it's not done through a centralised way. And Western Australia have just mandated the jab for all workers. Victoria has, Queensland just for health workers. So it's all over the place, to be honest. That's why it's really difficult to keep up, and that's why people keep moving states, because they just keep hoping that they're going to find freedom like in the next state, but then it follows them. Tyranny just follows them.
That's terrible. And the last question, what can we do for you? We're on the other side of the ocean, right? Different continents away. What can we do for you?
Well, one of the main reasons I made the video was just to raise awareness, and also to let people know that this is coming to you if you don't stand up now while you still can. But also, you never know who's going to watch the video or who's going to watch this interview who may have influence in Australia. Maybe there is someone who has Scott Morrison's number and who's influential with the economy here in Australia, and calls Scott Morrison and says, I'm going to stop exporting for you or importing for you if you don't give Australians back their basic human rights. You just never know. And that's kind of what I'm hoping will happen. I obviously would rather that we can fix it ourselves, but at this point, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. We've been doing the diplomatic campaigning for like 2 years. It's not working. So that's why I've reached outside. Also, I'd like to network with as many leaders as possible around the world so that we can start communicating on a global level. That's something. If you're a prayerful person, please pray for Victoria right now as the bill is going through. If you can organise a demonstration at an Australian embassy or consulate on the 4th of December, we would really appreciate that. Please send us the videos and photos so that we can share it with our audience. And I think it will give Australians a lot of courage to see that the world is doing that for them. In saying that, and I'm nearly finished, but in saying that, I understand that every state and country and territory is going through their own version of this. But Australia seems to be about 2 or 3 months ahead of everyone. So I understand that you've got your own fights and battles. So I don't expect every country to get involved, but I do hope a few do. And it'll really give us a lot of courage. And if we can ever pay back the favour, we will. But any pressure, if any of the audience knows someone really high up in the economic or political structure in your state or country, please ask them to put some pressure on Australian leaders to change the destructive path that they're on.
And a final word here that I'd like to thank you for coming on here. This was very brave of you, and we pray that you're safe through this, because the video we saw at the beginning was pretty frightening. We had Katie Hopkins on the show. She's a British journalist from England, was in your country and was not treated very well because she would not get the jab. Came to this country and was speaking, and we had the opportunity to talk to her. And she, being, of course, the mother country of both your country and our country, England, and that is, she said something. She says, you, of all the people in the world, are so blessed because you have a constitution. And as long as American people believe in that constitution and are willing to die for it, the world will be a safe place.
Rather die on my feet than live on my knees.
Live on my knees. And so we do appreciate you. Monica, please be safe. If we can do anything here, and I understand you're a podcaster, if there's some way we can hook up with you on other programs, these gentlemen and ladies here with what they have achieved is phenomenal. I mean, it just started as a small effort. And these are the heroes. I mean, what would you expect out of Boeing but fighting aircraft and fighting people that build the fighting aircraft? So
we have an SOS flag.
That's amazing. Can I
send a message to those?
Can I send a message to those who are at doing the protesting right now?
Yes.
We only have a minute.
Yeah. I would just like to say.
I'd just like to say to them.
All right. I'd just like to say to them. I came up with a quote in prison, and that was that during times of psychological warfare, collective courage of conviction is going to be our strongest weapon. So they're trying to fight you with mental harassment. So you just have to stay strong, and you're obviously doing that. So congratulations, and I promise it'll pay off, and you'll look back at yourself in the future and be proud of who you've become.
And God's blessings
well
to you and your countrymen. thank you for being here. We'll have you on another show another
you so
time.
much.
Thank you so much. Thank
so
you
much.
for
Thank
the
you, Monica.
men and women of
Can't wait.
Boeing for wanting to put this on. I think this has been a phenomenal show. And that's not canned applause. That's real applause.
Thanks.
Now, I want some of you, or all of you, to stay tuned because we got another show called Fighting Back with Ray Michaels and, of course, our original badass, and he's standing right over there, and that's Josh Bernstein. Say it, Ray. Josh Bernstein?
JoshBernsteinUncensored.com.
Okay. So thank you so much, everybody, and just stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hold on. And see.
That's pretty good, considering it wasn't rehearsed.